How do we create plurals in English? That seems like a very simple question. You would say, oh, of course, you just add the ending or suffix s to the end of every noun, and then you get the plural. Okay, let me give you a couple of nouns, and then you give me the plural. Let's start with the word computer. Computers, of course. So s here, which we thought could be pronounced sa, it's actually pronounced za here. What about rack, like a dish rack? What is the plural for rack? Racks. So here we pronounce it like s. Oh, and then what is the plural for match, like a soccer match? Matches. So that's not even, it's not just that, there's also us. So matches. But then what about the word garage? What is the plural for garage? Garages, yes. The us, but we don't have es, we just add s because garage already has an e. But the e is silent, but then when we turn it into plural, it comes to life and it becomes a schwa. What about child? What is the plural for child? Children. And then for foot is feet, and for goose is geese. So as you can see, here we have a bunch of nouns. In English, adjectives cannot be plural. So when we're talking about plural, we are only talking about nouns. Now the question becomes, how do we know which one we should do? If it's not regular, there's a very small number of nouns that you can memorize. But once you memorize these, then the question becomes, when do you pronounce the plural s or es as sa, when do you pronounce it as za, and then when you pronounce it as us? First of all, in the previous video, we covered the topic that we call I epenthesis or E epenthesis in Brazilian Portuguese. And we saw how speakers of Brazilian Portuguese insert E in a lot of words. Here, you can see that even in English, when you're forming the plural for words like match or garage, you are using the za, but you epenthesize a schwa. In a way, you can consider this as a form of epenthesis. You epenthesize a sound to fix the difficult pronunciation situation. So if in this case, if you wanted to say garages or garages, that would be very difficult. Therefore, you epenthesize the schwa. Okay, the plural in English, it's za. But it can be pronounced as us or sa, depending on what? The phonological environment or the phonological features of the last sound of the noun. If you look at these sounds carefully, you see we have a ra. So when it's a ra, it's z, it becomes za. When it's ka, it becomes sa. And when it's cha or ja, it becomes us. The thing is, there's so many sounds in English and you don't want to memorize them. What if we can put all these different sounds into different groups or classes? And then depending on those classes, we can figure out how to pronounce the sa. I've actually created a table. I have put all the nouns here. I've created 4 categories. You see, this is irregular. D is irregular. So we're going to memorize them. Then we're dealing with 3 categories. It has to do with the way the plural suffix s is pronounced. Is it pronounced za, is it pronounced sa, or is it pronounced us? You see, cab becomes cabs, tabs, cads. All of the nouns in A, they're pronounced za. The s, the plural s is pronounced za. All the nouns in B, like caps, cats, backs, fates, they're pronounced sa. And then in C, we have the epenthesis. Buses, kisses, bushes, buzzes, garages, massages, matches, touches, badges. Here, sometimes in the regular writing system, you have the addition of sa only, or sometimes you have the addition of es. That has to do with regular orthography. Now we are going to write a phonological rule that would explain the situation. In order to write a phonological rule for the English plural, you need to know English happens to be a language that has a class of sounds called sibilants. What is a sibilant? It is a term to refer to a phonetic classification of sounds on the basis of manner of articulation. A sibilant is actually a fricative sound that is made by producing a narrow groove-like stricture between the blade of the tongue and the back of the alveolar ridge. Sibilants have a high-frequency hiss characteristic, and this characteristic is referred to as sibilance. All sounds in any particular language can be classified into two groups, either as sibilants or non-sibilants. The English sibilants are sa, za, sha, ja, cha, ja. Now I'm going to write a rule for column 3. For column 3, here, you parenthesize a schwa, so the za becomes az whenever the consonant that precedes the sound is a sibilant consonant. Now let's look at these words. Buses, it's a sa, it's a sibilant. Bushes, it's a sha, it's sibilant. Matches, and then badges. They're all sibilants, therefore you parenthesize the schwa. Okay, so you always use za. Under A, all the nouns end in a voiced non-sibilant sounds. To form their plurals, you add the voice za. In column B, the words end in voiceless non-sibilant sounds. Therefore, you add a voiceless sa as a plural ending. The plural ending or suffix in English is sa, pronounced za, unless it's pronounced sa whenever it's non-sibilant voiceless. It's pronounced az whenever it is sibilant regardless of voiceless or voiced.